Right, welcome to Unit 5 of your theory course. In this unit, we're certainly going to talk about intervals, we're going to talk about key signatures, and moving music from one key to another. So to do that, first we need to understand intervals and what intervals are. So to begin, intervals have both a number and a classification. When we talk about intervals, we're talking about the distance between two notes, the physical distance between two notes. Okay, so first we have to understand that intervals have both a number and a classification. The classification, or in other words, the type of interval, is always written first. For example, you might have a major second, a perfect fourth, a minor third, a diminished fifth, a perfect fifth. Okay, so the classification is the kind of interval it is. And when the upper note is found in the major scale of the lower note, the interval is described as either major or perfect. And this is a very important point, okay? I'm going to put a little square around it because this is probably the most important part of this whole lesson, okay? When the upper note is found in the major scale of the lower note, the interval is described as either major or perfect. For example, the intervals of unison, or a 1, a fourth, a fifth, and an octave are described as perfect. The other ones within the octave, the 2, 3, 6, and 7, are described as major if the upper note is in the major scale of the lower note. So if that doesn't quite make much sense to you, let me zoom in here and help to explain this using the C major scale. Now we're going to be in C major for a moment just to make it easy because we know that the key of C major has an empty key signature. Okay, so when we have two of the same note, two C's in this example, we call it a perfect unison. Okay, we have the note C in the key of C major. Next, we have an interval of a second. When we have a note, a lower note, and the note that's right beside it. That's called the interval of a second. When we count intervals, we always count the bottom note as note number 1. So 1, 2. All right, so this is an interval of a second, and we call it a major second because the upper note is found within the scale of the lower note. In other words, we find D naturals in the key of C major. That's what we mean by the upper note is in the major scale of the lower note. Okay, carrying on. In the key of C major, we have E naturals. Okay, this interval size is of size 3. Let me zoom in a little bit more so we can even see that we can step our way up. So the C is 1, the D would be 2, the E is 3. This is an interval of size 3. That's why we call it a third. And since in the key of C major we have E naturals, which this is, we call it a major third. Moving on, a perfect fourth. It's a fourth because C is 1, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, intervals of size 1, 4, 5, and 8 are called perfect. So this is a perfect fourth. Here's a perfect fifth. Carrying on across to the upper part of the scale, a major sixth, a major seventh. Remember, all of these notes above are notes that fit within the key signature of the lower note. So in C major, we have A naturals. In C major, we have B naturals. And then we have the octave here. This is of size 8. We call it a perfect octave or a perfect eighth. However you want to say it would be fine. So the rest of this worksheet is just practice doing that. Practice finding not only the interval size, which you should be able to do relatively easily. Is this a fourth? You count the bottom note as 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4. Trying a few other ones. D is the first note of the scale here. Assume we're in D major. 1, oh sorry, putting dots on the screen here. So if that's note 1, that's 2, F is 3, G is 4, A is 5, B is 6. That is a sixth. And if we just quickly look at the interval sizes, we'll see that this one is a third. Whoops, sorry about that. This one is a third. Over here we do have a seventh. This is also a seventh, that is a sixth, that is a fourth, and that's an octave, that's an eighth. So the question here is not whether the number size is correct, but whether whether the classification of the interval is correct. It is a fourth, but is it a perfect fourth? This is a sixth, is it a major sixth? Is this a perfect third? Is that the correct label for this kind of interval? Is this the correct label for this particular seventh? And the way to know that is intervals will be perfect or major if the upper note fits within the scale of the lower note. Right? So that's the first thing to check. Do we find this upper note when we play the major scale of that lower note? That's the first thing. The second thing to double check is that you have the right classification. So intervals of size 1, 4, 5, and 8 are called perfect. Intervals of 2, 3, 6, and 7 are major. Okay, so within the octave, you don't have to memorize both of these lists. If you memorize one, the rest are all in the other family. So if you can memorize that 1, 4, 5, and 8 are perfect, everything else is major. All right, so use that knowledge to help you finish off this worksheet, and we'll take it up in class. All right, see you in the next lesson.